What if the perfect home you grew up in was actually a factory designed to turn you into somebody's meal? Emma and her friends thought they were living in an orphanage, just waiting for a loving family to take them in. They had no idea that the family waiting for them had a dinner table, not a bedroom. So let's get into it. Subscribe and like if you're new, because you're going to want more of this. Now let's get into it. The story starts at the Gracefield Orphanage, where a woman named Isabella looks after all the children. Every child calls Isabella their mother, and everyone seems happy living there. The children treat each other like brothers and sisters and get along really well. Each child has a number tattooed on their neck to tell them apart. Isabella also teaches the children lessons so they'll be ready to live in the outside world once they're adopted. 3 of the smartest kids there are best friends named Emma, Norman, and Ray. The orphanage is surrounded by a big open field where all the children love to play. There's only one rule: no child is allowed to cross the fence around the orphanage. Also, whenever a child gets adopted, they leave the orphanage and never come back. One night, a family comes to adopt a girl named Connie. Everyone says their goodbyes, and then Isabella walks her out. After Connie leaves, Emma and Norman start wondering whether she'll ever write to them. The kids who leave always promise to send letters back, but not one child has ever actually done it. Then Emma and Norman spot Connie's favorite teddy bear sitting in the room. Connie never went anywhere without it. Ray notices that the light at the main gate is still on, meaning Connie hasn't left yet. He tells them to run and give it to her quickly. Emma and Norman sprint toward the gate and find a truck parked there. When they look inside, they get the shock of their lives. Connie's dead body is lying in the truck with a flower placed on her chest. Before they can react, they hear footsteps coming, so they quickly hide under the truck. 2 large demons arrive and place Connie's body into a capsule. Emma and Norman are terrified as they listen to the demons talk. The demons say that the meat from this place is top quality and that the children here are raised just for them to eat. Emma and Norman realize with horror that their orphanage is actually a human farm, a place where children are bred and kept alive just to be eaten by demons. Then Isabella appears. She promises the demons that next time she'll bring them a smarter child, since intelligent children are said to have higher quality meat. The demons catch a scent and start searching everywhere, but when they check under the truck, all they find is Connie's teddy bear. They pick it up and hand it to Isabella. Isabella looks at the teddy and immediately suspects that a child had been there. Emma and Norman rush back to the orphanage. Emma stumbles and breaks down in tears. She can't accept that the woman she called her mother is actually evil, and that the place she called home is really a farm for humans. Norman does his best to calm her down and tells her they need to escape. Emma agrees, but she refuses to leave without the other children. The next day, Emma and Norman go to the fence. Norman says they need a solid plan before they tell anyone else. They cross the fence to scout the area and discover a huge wall on the other side. It's too high to climb without a rope. They make a note to come back with one. Meanwhile, back in the field, one of the younger children goes missing during playtime. Isabella quickly checks her watch and heads into the woods, returning moments later with the lost child. Emma and Norman realize that Isabella has placed trackers on all the children and uses them to monitor everyone's location. The next day, Emma and Norman sneak into the woods and hide some ropes in a tree. Their friend Ray follows them and catches them in the act. Norman decides to trust him and tells him everything. Ray believes them right away and asks to help. The 3 of them head to the library to do some research, where they notice that every book has an owl stamp on it with a coded message around it. They crack the code and discover that a man named William Minerva knows the truth about the orphanage. Through the books, he's been trying to warn the children and tell them to escape. That evening, Isabella introduces a new assistant named Sister Crone to all the children. This makes things much harder for Emma and Norman, since now there are two adults watching everyone. Isabella shows Crone the files on Emma, Norman, and Ray, telling her she believes those three already know the truth. She orders Crone to watch them closely. The next day, the three friends organize a game with the other children. The goal is secretly to teach the younger ones how to hide and run. But Crone catches on and joins the game, chasing everyone. She manages to catch every child except Norman. That night the three friends meet up, and Norman says he thinks there's a spy among the children who's been reporting their moves to Isabella. He suspects it's one of the older kids, so he decides to test two children his own age, Dawn and Gilda, by telling them about the plan without revealing where the ropes are actually hidden. Dawn doesn't believe them and gets angry, even hitting Ray. Emma calmly explains everything again. Gilda ends up believing them because she knows Emma loves Isabella deeply and wouldn't lie about something like this. Norman then tells Dawn and Gilda a false location for the hidden ropes. That night, an unknown child slips a note under Isabella's door. The note mentions the ropes and says Norman is dangerous. The next morning, Emma, Norman, and Ray discover that Isabella has taken the ropes from the spot they told Dawn and Gilda about. Dawn and Gilda become the obvious suspects, but Norman reveals that he never told them the real hiding spot. He admits the whole thing was a test for Ray, since Ray was the only other person who knew the actual location. Ray then confesses. He's been Isabella's spy all along. He explains that he found out the truth about the orphanage long before the others, but he was too afraid to die. So he made a deal with Isabella to work as her informant in exchange for more time. He also reveals that he had actually been trying to help them all along, as he was the one who hid Connie's teddy bear so Emma and Norman would go to the gate that night and discover the truth. Emma and Norman tell Ray they still trust him. They bring him fully into the team, turning him into a double agent. Ray will now pretend to spy for Isabella while actually working for them. Ray hides the ropes in a secret compartment in his bedroom floor, along with some fuel canisters and a device he built himself. The device is designed to block his tracker signal so Isabella can't find his location. Ray then goes to Isabella and feeds her false information, telling her the kids are planning to poison her food. Isabella thanks him but tells him his adoption date is coming up soon, which shakes him badly. The next day, the 5 children go to the wall to test the ropes, but Crone catches them. Instead of reporting them, she surprises them by offering to help. She tells them there's a chip inside her body, and if a child escapes on her watch, she'll be electrocuted. Even so, she chooses to help them. It turns out Crone was raised in an orphanage just like this one, and she wants to take Isabella's place. That's why she's willing to side with the children. That night, she tells them a story. 1,000 years ago, humans and demons fought a devastating war that wiped out huge numbers on both sides. To end the conflict, both groups struck a deal known as the Promise. They agreed to stay in their own worlds and leave each other alone. In return for peace, humans agreed to sacrifice some children to feed the demons. The orphanages were set up specifically for this purpose. Children were well educated and raised properly because demons who eat intelligent brains become smarter themselves, making them less likely to wage war on humans. Crone also tells the children that the trackers are actually placed inside their ears. Since Ray already has a device to block his tracker, Crone wants to know how it works. The kids catch on and secretly move the blocking device into a stuffed pig toy that Crone had already checked. Later, Crone tears apart the kids' room looking for the blocker and finds Ray's secret compartment. Just as she's about to pick up the stuffed pig, Isabella walks in and hands her a letter. The letter says Crone has been assigned as the new mother at a different orphanage, effective immediately. Crone is suspicious, but before she goes, she quietly leaves a special pen behind for the 5 children. At the front gate, she runs into the orphanage supervisor, an old woman everyone calls Grandma. Crone tells her what's been happening, but Grandma simply says that Isabella does her job well and won't let the children get away. Moments later, a demon appears and Grandma allows it to kill Crone. Back at the orphanage, Emma and Norman try to climb the wall while Ray keeps Isabella busy with conversation. But Isabella already suspects something. She stops listening to Ray, locks him in a room, and heads straight for the wall. Dawn manages to break Ray out. Isabella catches Emma and Norman in the act and grabs them both, furious. She says she gave them everything they needed and they still tried to break the rules. Emma grabs Isabella so Norman can escape, but Isabella overpowers her easily and breaks Emma's leg. Norman sees what happened and refuses to leave. Isabella then tells Norman that he's next to be adopted. Tonight is his last night at the orphanage. That same night, the four friends come together and try to find a way to save Norman. He tells them that if his staying means protecting the rest of them, then he is willing to make that sacrifice. As Norman packs his things, he finds the pen Crone left behind. The next morning, he uses a rope to climb the wall alone, just to scout the other side. He discovers that there's a deep valley beyond the wall with no easy way across. He comes back and draws a picture for his friends, telling them they need to find a bridge to get over the gap. That evening, it's time for Norman to leave. He says goodbye to everyone. Emma is in tears because she knows what's waiting for him on the other side. Isabella walks Norman to the gate where a man named Peter meets him. Peter tells Norman he's the person in charge of the operation that feeds the demons. He begins to explain everything in detail. Norman cuts him off and says, "You don't need to explain anything. I came here on my own." Shortly after, a demon arrives and kills Norman. Emma is devastated and helpless because of her injured leg. Isabella then approaches Emma and tells her she wants Emma to become the next orphanage mother. Emma is crushed. Ray, now alone, feels like all hope of escaping has disappeared. Then Isabella tells Ray that his adoption date is next on the list. That same night, Emma comes to Ray and says she has a plan. But Ray already has one of his own. He douses himself in fuel and sets himself on fire. As the flames spread, Emma starts screaming. Isabella runs in, and Emma tells her through tears that Ray burned himself alive using her watch. Isabella panics and tries to put the fire out as fast as possible, since the watch is what she uses to track all the children. The moment Isabella turns around, Emma is gone. It was all part of the plan. Emma runs out of the building with all the children, and Ray is right there with them. We're then shown a flashback that explains everything. After Norman was taken, Emma received a letter from him. Inside were detailed escape instructions and the special pen Crone had left. Emma passed the letter to Dawn and Gilda so they could quietly work out the plan with the other children. Emma deliberately kept Ray out of the loop because Isabella always had eyes on him. The flashback also shows us that while Ray was setting himself on fire, Emma used a knife to cut his tracker out of his ear and threw it into the flames. She then lied to Isabella about Ray's death. She also went through and removed every other child's tracker the same way. Back in the present, all the children climbed the wall one by one and tossed their ropes over to the other side of the valley. Using hangers attached to the ropes, they slide across one by one. All the children make it over except Emma, who is still on the wall when Isabella arrives. Isabella tells Emma her story. She says that she was once just like her, young and full of hope. She had a boyfriend, and when she found out she was pregnant, she tried to escape. But standing on that same wall, she realized there was no way out. When her baby was born, he was taken from her and she was told he had died. That loss broke her. She chose to become a mother at the orphanage so she could at least give the children a good life while they were there. Even as she handed them over to the demons, Isabella was always heartbroken. But she told herself she was doing it to protect the human race. Isabella tells Emma she is her favorite child. Then she threatens her, saying that if Emma tries to cross, she'll cut the rope and let her fall. Emma looks at her and says, "I believe in you. You won't do it." She then starts making her way across the rope. Isabella raises her knife, but she can't bring herself to cut it. She stands on the wall and watches all the children disappear into the distance, and for the first time, she feels something like pride. In that moment, she begins to hum an old song she used to sing to herself during her pregnancy, and a wave of recognition hits her. She realizes that Ray was her child, the baby she was told had died. All the children push forward into the forest. Emma opens the pen Crone left behind and a map unfolds from inside it, guiding them all toward the nearest city. Meanwhile, Isabella walks back to face Peter and Grandma and tells them the children's escape was entirely her fault. As punishment, Peter hands her over to a demon. And that's where the story ends.